Halloween dies. Halloween is such a fantastic fun time to create because you can really go all out. So we're going to be looking at Mr. Bones, which is one of Tim's new Colorize dies, and that's going to be in the autumn Halloween set, as is Ghost Town #2. So these are just elements from both of those different die sets, but I'm going to be using more elements from each die set as we make it. I'm going to be creating a tiny little spooky scene within this dome jar. So let's get started. I'm going to angle you down. Now, the first thing we're going to do, you'll notice that I've actually cut Mr. Bones in half here. That's because I'm going to be using just that top half because, spoiler alert, I'm going to be having him coming out of the ground next to his gravestone there, which is a really nice effect. I'm also going to be using these two house elements from Ghost Town #2. Now, we've seen dies like this before from Tim. These ones are always really fantastic and popular because they're very versatile. You can put them on jars and use luster wax with them. You can have them on card makes or home decor pieces. And as you're going to see today, we're going to have it inside this cool dome here. This is a 3D project here. I'm going to be showing you some dry brush techniques, some inking techniques, and applying luster wax, so make sure you stick around. Now, let's have a look. I'm going to start by applying the luster wax and the dry brush paint to this house over here. Now, I'll just apply a little blob, just a tiny one there, because we don't need much acrylic paint. This is the green tea creamy acrylic, by the way. Now, this is really great for dry brushing because it's so thick and it's matte, it's vibrant. You're going to be able to see those on the black there. Now, to dry brush, the rule is be patient because we just want to come in very lightly and just start to have it show up on the black there. Now, I'm going to be doing this more towards the top than anything else. You need to try and get the excess off onto your craft mat before you start to apply it. So it's just a slow and steady technique, and it's going to really kind of add that spooky effect to your die cut pieces, especially when you do them in black. And the effect I'm going for here is, if you looked in an illustration, something like that, you might kind of get the effect of the sun hitting the top of the building here, and then we've got all that kind of mossy effect there. And when you have it all together, it just looks very sophisticated. It looks like you really know what you're doing with these techniques, and that's a really easy one to try out. So there we are. Now, I'm going to add the luster wax to this piece here. Because I'm finished with the dry brushing, I'm going to bring on some of our silver luster wax from the effects range. Now, I've taken a piece of scrap card because I'm not going to apply it to my craft mat, and that's because it's very difficult to get off surfaces, luster wax. So I always go with just some scrap card, and again, it's one of those cases of slow and steady. I'm only applying this to the bottom. I want to get most of it off my finger before I apply. And then it's just to add basically a bit of a mixed media appeal to it. So the bottom there is going to be with the luster wax. And just look at that. Now, if I angle it right, you'll see how the luster wax makes it all shine, but the paint remains matte, and we can see that hint of green from the green tea at the top. Now, once I've finished this effect on both of my house pieces from Ghost Town #2, they're going to look like this. Now, these are ready to layer up in my scene. But before we do that, I'm just going to show you an inking technique here with Mr. Bones, or the top half of Mr. Bones. Now, I'm just going to take one of the brown Tim Holtz distress inks here. This is walnut stain. Vintage photo works very well as well. And again, this is all about subtlety with this because I just want to add a bit of a distressed feel to the skeleton element in Mr. Bones. Because it's a Halloween make and we want to give that kind of dark appeal. Just to the edges, we don't want to go, we can have it kind of more light and bone coloured towards the centre there, but I want it to look like there's a bit of shadow. And after all, he is going to be popping out from below the soil. So we want to make sure that he looks a little bit grungy. So next, all I need to do is, this is a colorized after all. So when we have a colorized die set like this, we want to use all the pieces really. It's like a really cool jigsaw. It's like a 3D jigsaw. Now if I apply that to the front there, just using a tiny bit of express glue. Now say it's like a jigsaw. What I mean is that there's a process, a kind of delicate process to putting these together. And when you start with something that you don't really know kind of where it's going until you've finished making it, at which point you'll go, oh my word, that looks amazing. Just a tiny bit of express glue on here. And this is going to give a kind of shading appeal. So we can say that the brighter parts are at the front of Mr. Bones, and then the bits that are kind of in the shadow are behind that front part there. Now I've also put together this gravestone element. That's also part of the Mr. Bones die set. It's really cool because it comes with those little letters as well. So you can either choose to highlight the front parts like I have there, or you could highlight the back parts and have the front part in shadow and then add those little letters to the front. Now, here is the part where I'm going to get to layer it all up. So I've prepared the base of my dome jar. So this is my dome jar here. I prepared the base by just adding a thick layer of black primer to this. So this is just gesso, black gesso to the bottom there. Now I will give this a dry brush with the green tea as well, just to make sure everything ties in. And again, we're getting that kind of Halloween-y appeal there. Because remember, as makers, we all know that Halloween, I mean, all year round, Halloween is just around the corner. It is one of my favourite times to make because you can go all out. I'm going to be doing this as a blog as well, so make sure you check out the Sizzix website. You'll be able to see this as a blog. So if I am going a little bit too fast for you, you've always got that option to sit down, read it, step-by-step instructions, and I'll show you exactly how to make it. But it's the dies that make it. Have a look at that. And that's just using some of our texture paste with a layer of black gesso or black paint just over the top, and it picks up all these lovely bits here. That's going to look like a kind of distressed, maybe worn grass on a graveyard. So let's layer this up now. So I'm going to have the houses coming in from the back like this, because it is going to be a scene. Now these houses are designed in a way that's really cool and illustrative, so they're going to kind of lean in different directions as they would if it was, in a proper illustration here. But before we add these, we'll decide where they're going to go. I'm going to do the bigger house at the back. Now I've prepared this is some of the festive cardstock. So this is a dark green from the festive cardstock. I measured it out on here, so I know that the dome's still going to fit over it, but these are going to be hills. When you look at it from the front, which I will show you, they're going to look like hills. So I'm going to peel off my protective layer of the foam tape. I'm going to stand it up where I want it to go. I'm going to lean it to one side here so that you can see the house on the other side. And then that is ready to glue down here. Now, this is quite a cool technique. So I've got my Sizzix Glue Gun here. Now, I'm going to make it stand just by building up layers of this hot glue. And you want to be quite, you want to give quite a lot of the glue, and you need to just hold it until it sets. Now once this does set, it's going to be sturdy and it will stand up wherever you've added it. You've just got to hold it in place for the glue to dry enough that you can kind of let it go. But as I say, once that glue dries, it's going to be really, really sturdy for you. Now if I just angle this towards there, we can already see our scene is starting to come together. And that's pretty much fixed in place there. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to repeat that same process, but I'm going to do it kind of nearer to the front here. So I'm going to have this hill coming in from that way, and I'm going to have this house just sticking up here. So let's again peel off the protective layer. I'm going to stick my, just kind of angle them where I want them to go, and I'm going to put my house about here. And then it's the same thing again. So just adding our hot glue around the back. And you can let it drip and drizzle down on here, because as long as you've got it kind of piling up, it's going to start to stick in the right place. Move it along so that you know that the dome is going to sit over the make. And again, that's nearly ready to leave. I'm really excited about this make because you know, I love to make cards, but sometimes when you get the opportunity to make something special like this, it's really nice. It's a nice thing to work with. So, there we go. So it's now time. So I've got my two houses there with the hills. And it's now time for me to add in my Mr. Bones. He's going to be in the foreground. So this is, as you look at this, it's going to show houses in the background and Mr. Bones coming up through the ground. So let me just move my distress ink away. And same thing again. Now I'm going to just place it down and add my hot glue in. So the hot glue is really great for having things stand up like this. Now this is a new technique that I had only just kind of come up with. I was looking for a way to make them stand, and it turns out that the hot glue was perfect. So I might choose to bring him a little bit forward, and we'll just let that glue set there. But you might notice it kind of looks strange there with Mr. Bones just poking out of that ground. And if you can see some of the glue, it doesn't actually matter, because I've taken another colour of the festive cardstock. This is green, and I've torn over the top, so you can see there that is a tear. And then I've just cut out some little tiny V's, and that gives the impression of grass. So that's going to go right there in front of Mr. Bones. So we'll just add some hot glue just to the edge of there. Now this one should stand up very easily, like so. And then we just hold it. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Bones's gravestone here. So I'm actually going to put that in front. So drizzle that on and get it quite thick, and then as you just layer it down, it's going to fall onto that surface. And then that's going to make it stand up. And there we are. So, let's have a look at that scene so far. How cool is that? So we've got all that dimension in there. We've got Mr. Bones sticking out of the grave. It's Halloween. So he's coming out, maybe to trick or treat, maybe to scare people. It's just a really fun make to get involved with. Now, all I need to do, so you'll notice that there are a few kind of paint flecks around the outside of this. All I've done is I've sprinkled some paint in here. I flicked it using a palette knife, just to give the impression of either heavy rain or maybe it's a cold, snowy night, as it often is in Halloween. And there we have it. A fantastic little Halloween scene. Let me just take the top off there again, just so you can see it and the light isn't reflecting. Now, once you've created this, it's worth just picking some of the hot glue, the remaining parts of the hot glue off, just tidy it up, and then it's ready to go. But how cool is that? So this, again, was made using Ghost Town number 2. One of the elements from Mr. Bones over here, actually 2 of the elements, because we've got his gravestone over here as well. Now let's have a quick look at what else you get with these die sets. So this is a colorized after all, so you're getting both of the layers of Mr. Bones, so you're getting all 3 of the layers, I should say. You're getting that one singular element that you get to do all of the dark, shadowy bits behind Mr. Bones with. And then you get these parts that you can cut from your ivory or whatever colour you want your skeleton to be. And then if you want to go even further, we've got the front bits as well there. So it's always with Colorize, we're getting loads of die cut pieces because it works like, as I say, like a jigsaw or a paint by numbers, and it's a really therapeutic thing to put together because once you're finished, you look at it and you go, I've created that, and it's a really satisfying feeling. And then on top of that, we've got Ghost Town number 2. So you're getting both of these kind of haunted mansion shapes. You are getting a moon and some bats, which you can just see there. And then you're getting all these little misty elements that go around the house and, you know, give the impression of kind of a gloomy, foggy day. So I hope you've really enjoyed that live. I hope it's given you a bit of inspiration of things to make with your Tim Holtz Autumn Halloween dies. And yeah, have a go at home. I'll see you next time.